house, which is now an office building. And so, without further ado, I think Gabe is out there. Gabe is here, Gabe Molnar, if I have that correct. He is the president of Capstone Realty. They've done a lot of great things around the area. And Gabe, if you want to give a few words.
Yeah, I'd just say this book here, sitting here, I'll leave on the table. This is by a lady named Edith Wood, and it is a story. It's called Middletown Days and Deeds, and it's just a kind of a recollection of Middletown, its founding. And
it is on sale at the Middletown Museum for $25.
So and different details about Benjamin Head, different folks. We bought the home in 2020 and did a National Park Service historical preservation project at the home. A lot of it was just trying to bring back the life that was already here. So the floors you see here are what we understand to be the original ash floors. If you were in the basement and look up at the bottom of the floors, you'll see where they were hand hewn to go over top each of the different beams. Different things you'll see that are, I think, particularly noteworthy are the depth of the windows here. So those are all solid stone from the foundation all the way up to the roof line, and just fascinating amount of manpower that must have gone into that work. What's called, often referred to as a century beam, runs from right under the front door down to the back of the house. And so if you look where the stairs are to go to the basement, you'll see this 16-inch by 16-inch single beam that's been there since the building of the home over 200 years ago. And so we, one of the things we had to do, that beam was sagging over the years, and so we used these incredible jacks to try to stabilize it. Had to pour new foundations for those to ensure that the house will have its future for the next century or 2 centuries, we hope. But that beam, you'll see in that beam the mortise and tenon construction methods that were used. So all the beams, there weren't nails used to hold the beams together. They were all wood, wood dowels that were put through the beam. So you'll see some examples of that if you look at that center beam. The original owner of the home, Benjamin Head, was a slave owner, and so in the kitchen, if you go, you'll see an open door that with some small steps leading upstairs. That was where what we understand to be the slave quarters of the home originally. And then outside, there's a summer kitchen, and then in the basement, there was a winter kitchen. And so kind of that back corner of the house was all where the slaves who worked at the property would kind of be segregated outside the home. But we praise the Lord that after Benjamin Head, what seems to be the remaining owners of the home, most prominent of which was Silas Witherby. He was a doctor, famous in Middletown. They did not follow that same path, and so we don't see any further remnant of that sort of activity at the house. This little green building out here was his medical office. He was a doctor, so lived in the house. And so I don't know, this may be, I don't want to steal anyone's presentation, but these are all things that just to watch for as you tour through the property.
Any questions on that? Well, on behalf of the league, we gave our awards out earlier this year, and on behalf of the league, we're going to give you one of our history awards for the marvelous restoration that you've done here. Thank you. So, without further ado, if you want to walk around, look at some of the house, and after this, we're going to do a walking tour. It's my understanding. Where's Virginia? True that, she's way up. I think we're going to head to the east. Is that correct, Virginia, when we get done?
Yeah, we'll gather out here first and talk just a little bit about the west side.
West side,
and then
we'll head east.
go east.
And we're going to end up down at the Middletown Museum. So hopefully you'll enjoy all that. And thank goodness next time when we have a drought, I'm going to call an outdoor meeting of the day. And we'll get rid of the rain or get rid of the drought real fast. So that's great. We need the rain though, and much better walking in a mist than 95-degree heat, I think. So Without further ado, that's it. Thank y'all very much.
I'll be here.
On the southwest corner, which was stone, and there was a firm called Head, Hobbs, and Lawrence. Benjamin Head, Basil Hobbs, and Benjamin Lawrence, and they had a mercantile store. Benjamin Head traveled to Philadelphia and Baltimore to buy the goods, and they were shipped down the Ohio River to the town and came to Harrod's Creek. We're not too sure exactly where, but anyway. The people from Louisville, the elite, so the story goes, from Louisville, drove their carriages out here to buy the goods because they were superior to any other store around the surrounding areas. So evidently it was quite popular. And I have seen some of the ledgers, the items that were purchased, the people who bought them, and for how much. I couldn't tell you all that in detail. But one of the things that they sold a lot of were boots, lots of boots. And that makes sense. Dirt roads, riding horses, that kind of thing. And there was someone else, Mr. Bregman, supposedly had the store at one time. And I really can't find anything else on it. But talking about Bregman, he had a tavern right on the corner across from here, which is now, the Hostess Salon. And he and his, the elder Bregman, I think his name is Martin, and his son John ran that for 50 years. Now, I don't know if they closed it or if they were run out of town when the teetotalers came in and shut down a lot of the liquor and stores that sold liquor. But the Brigman family had, they purchased the 209 Southern Plantation, they called it, which is Willowwood subdivision. You all know where Willowwoods is. The house that was built, I believe, in the 1800s is still there. It's still standing, and I don't know who lives in it, but it is still there. So it's worth a drive up to see it. We wanted to talk about Governor Weatherby. He was born here. He's the only governor who was actually born in Jefferson County, lived here. Governor Brashear was born in Jefferson County, but he moved to Lexington and grew up. So we only have one that actually was born and lived here. And he was born right down the street here, on the other side of where the Christian church stood. He was born in 1908, I believe, and was governor from, 1950 to 55. But the house was taken over, well, in fact, my grandparents lived in the house for years. But then the church took the place over and they raised it in 1968. Where the church, Christian church sat, is now the Summit Academy. Now the history on the Christian church, they were organized, my cheat sheet. They were organized in 1836, I believe it was. But they didn't buy the lot. They bought it from Charles Benroth in 1842 for $120. And the history says that the members of the church actually made the brick to build the structure. It was a 36-foot structure with a 14-foot ceiling. And then later on, the stone that was put on the front, which we remember growing up here, when they raised that church and tore that stone down, the wall that you see here is where that stone came from. Yeah. So that's a nice little tie back to the head house. So across the street from where Governor Weatherby lived, born, is Charles Benroth House. It's one of the oldest houses in Middletown. Not the oldest, but one of the oldest. And Charles Benroth, I was just looking him up, and he owned shoe stores in Louisville, 1836, 1838, I don't know what other years he had it, but that was just one directory I found. And they tell us that he moved to Middletown when he was 83 years old. Don't know what year he was born. Can't find that. So the Charles Benroth house is named Benroth. Don't know why. It was built by a gentleman by the name of Remley, R-E-M-L-E-Y, and then sold to a gentleman by the name of Marshall. So if Benroth was 83 and moved into that house, how long did he live there? Don't know. But it is a log house. As a kid, I actually saw the rooms inside with the logs. They had not covered them. And fascinating. I still remember it very well. The Benjamin Head's house here, there was a Dr. Silas Weatherby. And all of the Weatherbys, they all tie in. In the museum, we have a complete picture of their heritage and their genealogy. And when Dr. Silas Weatherby lived here, his daughter, Henrietta Weatherby, married Frank Fisher. Frank Fisher and Henrietta moved into the Benroth house. That's where they lived for years. And they had one daughter there. That was his second marriage. They had one daughter, Marion. And Frank Fisher died at fairly, I think, in late 40s. But Miss Fisher lived there till she died. And they were there forever. So why wasn't the house named the Fisher House? I don't know. Benroth got the privilege. Just that little bit of history that you find. So next door to them was William Tharp I. He was a reverend that was Disciples of Christ. And he lived in that little house, courtroom house, for 40 years, so the census tells us. And he preached Fairgrass and around different churches. He did preach at the Christian church. And in fact, his last sermon was when he was 92 years old. And he was sitting in a wheelchair, giving the sermon, and he died the same year. And he was known as the oldest Christian minister in the world. That's nice to have that kind of remembrance. So that's about what we have down this way that would be of interest. Right behind you on Harrison, I will note this. Up the street, there's a house that now is a private residence. And it was our first public school. 1909, wasn't it? Yeah. There was 2 rooms, first public school. Middletown had lots of schools, private, and schools they talked about, but I don't think they were open, but anyway. So this one was the first public, and it was there, and then it became Middletown Elementary School, which is up on Madison. If you know Middletown, the school up on Madison. And that became the public school up there. Later became the Crosby Elementary School, because Crosby Middle School is in Douglas Hills. Here's my thought. Let me look at you. Okay. So also we have the little Etna station behind you. That's been there for, how long? I can't remember all these dates, guys.
5 years.
5 years. Let's see, that was in 1936. No, that had to be before then. Anyway.
I have a question about that building.
Yeah.
My family lived in Middletown, my parents did, between 1938 and 1940.
Uh-huh.
There was a story, my father was the first one who built radios.
Uh-huh.
And there's a story that he used that building to sell his radios. That he would build them just a few at a time. And when he would sell them and get enough money, then he would buy more parts and build more in that building. Is there any truth to that?
Should have been antenna then.
You know, I never heard that. I grew up right down here on Main Street. I was born in 38. And
I think it would have been an earlier part of that time.
yeah. The only thing that we ever knew, it was a gas station.
It's open till 1934, right?
And then at one time, they used it as a pickup for dry cleaning. And then for a long time, it was taxi cab stand. I've never heard anything about radios. Have you ever heard anything about that, Mark?
Not about radios, but it's been a dry cleaner drop-off, it's been a car wash, believe it or not, and a gas station. So it's possible there was a radio shop in there somewhere in its history.
What was your parents' name?
Deets, D-E-E-T-S.
The gas station closed in 1934 because when they built the new Shelbyville Road, it killed their business.
Okay, and
So
then
they-
it happened in 35.
That had 34 or 35. They were building it in 34, so it would have been 34 or 35 when he would have closed.
So if he was in there between 38,
He was not there in 38. Oh, you're talking about your folks?
if my father had been.
He could have been, yeah.
Is
yeah.
there any record of what had it?
We can research and see if we can find something at the museum.
And we do, you're more than welcome to come to the museum. We do have a research area there. And we'd be happy to work with you on that. Yeah.
Yeah, my father was also in the Middletown Fire Department, the volunteer, so.
What was it?
He was on the
My
fire
father was
department in
with
Middletown.
Middletown Fire Department.
What was the name?
Deets.
Ernest Dietz. or George
I've
Ernest
seen
Dietz.
the name in the records.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking if we could go ahead and start walking down.
Sure.
a little
Yeah,
bit.
sorry.
Sure. So we're gonna head down here towards the post office and, what was the Piercy grocery store. Front. Doors was Henry Piercy's home. And he, it was built in 1870 and he lived there until his death. This was his grocery store right here where we are now. He not only had a grocery store, he had a feed store in the back, and he had the post office inside. And the post office is supposedly one of the oldest in Kentucky. And he was postmaster, a couple of times. And his lifetime business partner was Edward Schindler. And Ed Schindler married one of his daughters, so he became his son-in-law as well as his business partner. The house right next to us, he also owned that, and another daughter married, and they lived there. And Ed Schindler became postmaster when Mr. Piercy was no longer, and he owned and built this concrete building, which became the post office in 1940, I believe. And he was, as I say, the postmaster. June 1945, I'm sorry.
Had a list.
He did.
And was postmaster since 1929. So that one we remember well, if you lived here. All right, let's walk up the sidewalk here. Well, up the street here. We're coming to we'll come up to the Arterburn house and Piercy house. The Arterburn is a log construct. Oh, what it is? Can't hear me.
We're too far behind. We're catching up.
Hey, there he is. Oh, Gary, I haven't been paying any attention to where you were.
I didn't know where I was either.
Okay, Gary, we're going to talk about the Arterburn house up here.
Okay.
It is a log house, and it was built in 1800 by the Arterburns. We're not too sure which one or how many, but the unusual design is a vertical log construction. And later in years, one of his sons, Perry, put on the concrete porch and the columns. So they've been there for a long time. So that is another log house and one of the older ones in our community. If we walk on up to the Blue Bakery, which was the original bank in Middletown, which was built in 1910, or opened in 1910, I believe. And Dr. Weatherby, who was a physician down in the head house, he was president of the bank. And I believe in the 40s, the bank moved down on the highway, US 60, at the corner of Harrison and US 60. And they were the first bank to have a drive-through window. The building was occupied by Ravenous Plumbing for years. And now the Blue Bakery, I understand, has great desserts. And I don't know if they're closing business or what, but they've got a sign up here. So, they come and go these days. Does anybody have any questions?
The bank vault no longer exists in there, but they saved in there on the floor an outline of where the bank vault used to be. And if you go down in the basement, they have the stone foundation for the bank vault still standing downstairs. And they do have great desserts. I'm not sure if there's what's going to happen to the business since the building's for sale or lease. So
Speaking of the vault, they had a small vault also, which is at the Middletown Museum, and everybody's welcome to go in there after this is over.
Well, right across the street, we have our 12-mile marker. You can see the stone standing over there. That's 12 miles to the courthouse in Louisville. And this corner also is one of the 4 public wells that we have here. And this is the second one. It's been filled with rock and dirt and things. And it's no longer visible. And there was the first public well, so they say, was up in front of where City Hall is now, the Weatherby House, Davis Inn. And that's where they supposedly hid the whiskey during the Civil War. You remember that, right? Okay. Yeah, okay. So, anyway, and then there was a third well down at Harrison going up to where Dr. Mason's house was. I have no idea where that one is or where it would be located. The only one that may have visibility is the one in front of City Hall, right? Maybe. Okay. All right, now we do have a choice. We can go over to the museum and find some answers if you need them, or we can walk up towards, go east here towards the City Hall, Davis Inn. What do you want to do?
I was across the street and didn't hear you, but did you talk about the Middletown Inn?
No.
We can walk at least, that far and talk about Middletown Inn. And if everybody wants to go farther, we can go to the Davis Tavern or go straight to the museum.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. I'll go to the, you get to take this one here.
Hear what we're saying here. We're at the Middletown Inn. Was built about 1798 and has pretty much had a history of being a hotel and stagecoach stop back in the day. The addition you see with the stucco to the west there was added on in later years as things happened and the town grew. We've had a beauty shop, a pool hall, ice cream store. About everything you can think of has been in those 3 little doors down there. But in this house, it's got 15 steps on the staircase that supposedly is because we're the 15th state. And the house is wood and brick. But the foundation, well not the foundation, but the floor joists on the first floor are log. And some of those logs still have bark on them to this day. We have photos in the museum we can show you. Here's the photos. The foundation is dry laid limestone from the area, and this little area right here on the porch is where the coal chute was. You go in the basement and there's a slot in the foundation where the coal went in the basement. That's there. It had two fireplaces originally, one on the east and west side. We don't know when the east side foundation or chimney disappeared, but in the basement the foundation is still there for that chimney. The chimney in the living room here, you can certainly look in the windows, is original to the house. They've done some interior remodeling. It's going to be a daycare center for special needs adults, hopefully in November. But maybe the house will be open, we can have a tour or something on it then. Originally, it was just, and it's hard to say unless you've been to there. There was a dining room behind the house that was added onto, and the original story is there was an oak tree sat in the middle of the dining room before they added on. The kitchen, which is just behind it, was a detached kitchen for it, and it's now all connected. The smokehouse is still in the back. You can see it down the side of the house here, and it's got slots for ventilation and what have you. Really neat. It turned into, sometime in the early 1900s, it turned into a private residence, and she lived here. I guess pretty much died. I don't know when Mr. Thornwell had died. But in the 20s, the stucco salesman came through Middletown, and they stuccoed everything that they could get. This building's stuccoed, and so is City Hall. I have seen parts of this building when it had water damage over here on the east side, and the lap siding is still there. It's just covered with plastic. And it still has some water issues on occasions, but I think these new folks that own it have done a lot of repairs to this wall. So. But the wonderful little house. And what's next?
Well, I'm just wondering, several blocks down to the city hall, do y'all want to go on across the street to the museum, or do y'all want to walk down to the, walk down to City Hall?
You want to walk down to City Hall and go to it, and we can stroll that way?
Yeah.
It's just around the curve down here.
Because this thing's pointed only one direction.
I was missing the guy with the mic with the speaker. Waiting on me. All right, now you're in front of the Weatherby House / Davis Tavern / City Hall. Most of us just call it City Hall anymore. Built in the early 1800s, maybe in 1799. I'm not real sure just yet. Haven't found it, but the William White, who was one of the founders of this town, built this house for his family. And then later, his daughter married, I can't remember the guy's name, but anyway, he was a teacher, and they lived here. And allegedly, there was a school ran out of this building, another school. And then Susan Davis bought it in 1841, and she ran a hotel / tavern out of the place. Now it's alleged that Breckenridge, Jefferson Davis, and General Lafayette stopped by here in their travels. We're not real sure about all that because there's no written documents of it. But that's the story that we have. Right behind us, this lady over here, there's some stones in the grass. Somewhere out in this general area was the public well. I've always been told because of those rocks. I'm assuming they're right. I'm not going to move them to find out. But there were dead trees here, and it was beautiful. And there was about 100 acres to the Weatherby Farm and the Davis family stuff here. The house across the street has just been remodeled, about a 2-year remodel on that house with some additions. And Luke Weatherby, they lived there for a time, but that was also the summer kitchen for when this was a hotel. And so they walked the food across the street. It's an amazing building. It's had numerous additions. Sometime if you got business or just want to come see us, drop by during business hours and the ladies will let you take a quick peek around. One of our finest police guys, he don't want to be shown up, but he wants to wave to us. All the city offices are here, including the police department, so it's here. Any questions on this one? Yes.
This police, I don't know about fire, but police under Jefferson County till just in the last few years?
Oh. Anybody remember when the merger
They
was?
didn't have a municipal Middletown police force till just
No,
lately.
it was after the merger, whenever that was.
2003.
2003, give or take.
Well, Middletown Police just came about the last 4
About the
years.
last 5, 6
Yeah,
years.
yeah, I'm thinking
Because-
that's about the timeline.
And I won't get into all that story, but Metro Police, this was a quiet into town 10, 15 years ago. So they'd pull people from this area to other areas. Well, if you needed police out here, it'd take you 15 or 20 minutes to get a police officer. So some of the residents complained to City Hall, said, hey, we don't like that anymore. We started our own police department. So now we got our own, and that's it. Any questions on this house? There's tons of history on the house. We can go through information at the museum. Come see us, whatever. And if you'd like, you can read some of the plaques that are here before we turn around. And we'll go back to the community center, which is the Oak Methodist Church. And we'll have the museum opened up. We've got water and some soft drinks, there's restrooms available. And you can take a tour of our little museum. I will put a plug in for us on Facebook. If you're a Facebook user, you can find the museum at Historic Middletown Inc. or Middletown Museum. That'll take you to our page. We post a lot of stories and photographs of Middletown and the area. And find out a lot more information just by following that page too. Thank you all. Questions, come see us.
If anyone here is not a LHL member, if you see me, you can sign your name and email, and we'll put you on the membership list.
Yes.
One of the last couple of meetings I went